बुधवार अक्टूबर 5th शैरटन गिलफोर्ड दे विच सरी बोर्ड ऑफ ट्रेड ने सारे मेयर की जिहड़ी डिबेट है वो अज होनी है। वो डिबेट थोड़े असी रूबरू करांगे कि डिफरेंट जिहड़े कैंडीडेट्स है मेयर दे उन्हां दे की विचार है।
For tonight's mayoral candidate dialogue, we have 7 candidates out of the 8 that are running for this year's Surrey local election campaign. They are going to be responding to questions that we've gathered in advance from the Board of Trade, the community, the South Asian Business Association, and of course from our advocacy teams at the Board of Trade. Given the tight time frame, we've coalesced all of the questions into different issue topic areas that capture the questions that we received. Each candidate on stage will have 1 minute to respond to the questions. Our timekeeper this evening is Jazroob Gosal, our policy and research manager, who also organized all of these debates that we're having for the civic election. So a round of applause for Jazroob. So candidates, our timekeeper, Jazroob, will hold up a yellow folder at 45 seconds to give candidates 15 seconds to finish their comments. When the red folder is held up, the candidate's time is up and we will move on. Do not disturb the timer at any time, audience, during the program. We're going to have a quick round also of one-on-one towards the end of the program, where each candidate will have an opportunity to ask another candidate a question. And sometimes what happens in this process is the same candidate is asked a question. That's democracy. You'll have to deal with it on stage. But again, the response is only 1 minute. And then we'll finish the program with a 2-minute closing remark by each mayoral candidate. On stage tonight, let me introduce you. We have Amrit Beering. Please welcome Amrit. Sukh Dhaliwal. Gordy Hogue. Brenda Luck. Professor Kuldeep Pelia. Jenny Sims. And John Wolanski. And unfortunately, the mayoral candidate, Doug McCallum, chose not to attend to give his perspectives to us, so he is not able to be with us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not an easy job to run for political office. It takes great courage. It takes time. It shows that everyone here on stage is committed to service to their city, and in some cases to their region as well, for our regional government. So I just wanted to ensure that we all understand that it's not an easy job to be a politician, to ensure that they're making the leadership decisions that we need. So let me begin with the first question, and Amrit, you're going to be first to respond, and then we'll go down the line. From the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, in light of numerous examples of businesses and residential developments waiting 12+ months for approvals, the BC government has published roadmaps for addressing issues of housing affordability through the Development Approval Process Review and the BC Canada Expert Panel on the Future of Housing, Supply and Affordability. If you are elected as mayor, what measures would you adopt to streamline development approvals and fast-track developments to assist the business community to ensure that our workforce has the housing that they need? Amrit, over to you first.
We have two-pronged problem. First is our population is constantly increasing and is not predictable. it depends upon federal government because we are not growing organically by producing more babies. It's more immigration policy. So assuming we have some inclination how many people are coming in per month or per year, we need to build housing for them. Since we are out of land, so we need to build high, we need to build townhome, condos, we need to approve them faster without compromising the quality. That needs more staff at city. I don't know where the staff went and why the situation occurred, but we need to hire more people, more qualified people. And we don't need to be biased with anyone like the allegations are. Approve everyone's permit based upon their merit, and that's what we can do. Thank you.
Suk, you're next. Same question.
Excellent question that you raised. In fact, if you look at our platform, we were the first ones 4 months ago that came up with a plan to make this process based on the credentials and merits of the project, not just few insiders having an access to the mayor and the council. Then we brought in a plan 333. Renovation permit, 3 days. Single housing, 3 weeks. Multifamily, 3 months. In fact, the same plan is now endorsed by Doug McCallum, and not only him, in fact, also one of the mayoral candidates in Vancouver. The reason is we have 1,500 people moving in. We need more housing. The only way we can do is making this process the fastest in the lower mainland, and Surrey being the leader, and our plan is the one that will deliver that housing.
Gordon.
Well, first of all, I think we need to have transparency, and the current council or the current mayor has not allowed transparency, nor has he allowed there to be information as he shut down most of the advisory groups. People elected to office have to remember who they report to. They report to the people of Surrey. So there are a number of steps that I think should be taken. One of the things that I proposed is that we look at having a public inquiry in terms of the whole process and be reviewing. I continually hear people say that I've applied and it's taken forever. I finish with engineering and then I send something off to planning and it doesn't get answered. We propose having a concierge, somebody who's identified to lead you through, a staff member that takes you through that process. We also want to be transparent. If you apply for something, it goes up on the website that they know when you've applied and when you expect to be able to complete that, so that it's transparent and it moves through and accountability is had throughout. There are 8 other things we have, but apparently colorblind, I can still go on for a little while longer then.
Thank you. Brenda.
Thank you. The very first thing we have to do is elect honest people to City Hall to make sure there is only one door to Surrey City Hall. No side doors, no back doors, no friends and family entrance. But absolutely, we need to use technology and we need to hire back a lot of employees. We actually did have a hiring freeze in Surrey, which is absolutely absurd at the beginning of COVID. We need to stop that. We need more employees. There's no question about that. The other thing that we have to also do is make sure that we are not just looking at building houses. We have to build communities, and that means we need schools. So it's easy to say build houses and houses, but we need to make sure we're working bilaterally with the provincial government to make sure we have the amenities and the facilities that we need, which number one is schools. We need more schools. So it's not just a housing issue, it's an entire community issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Kuldeep.
See, in the last 2-3 months, I received so many letters from so many people. They say housing is number one, and then I got this delay of issuing of permits. One person told me that it took about 11 months and still pending. So we have to just streamline this process of issuing permits and licenses and train the staff very well, motivate the staff, and hire the necessary staff. Very simple at that. And make sure that people do get their licenses, permits in time. Thank you.
Jenny.
Thank you very much. Number one, we know there is a housing shortage. and that's why the costs are so high. Number two, City Hall is broken, and there isn't a clear system for permitting. My commitment is that within the first 2 years, we will double the number of permits being given, and out of those, up to 25% will be for social housing, will be for low and middle income housing, and will include rentals as well. But most importantly, I will say, we will bring in experts to help us to streamline the system. I know some people will say 3 days, but let me tell you, it's hard even to get a FedEx parcel in 3 days, never mind get approval on a building permit. So for me, no grandiose promises, but within the first 2 years, double our supply, and then make sure that up to 25% is affordable.
Thank you
low
very
and middle
much.
income.
John.
Okay, this is going to take some time, but we have a backlog because of COVID. So these planners and people that are looking at these projects, they got to make sure that they're structurally sound. We can do 3 days, but I don't want my plans delivered by Skip the Dishes. So if you're building something that's $1 million, $2 million, and it falls apart like in 3 months, well, then there's all these lawsuits going back and forth, and of course the city's involved, and all we're doing is patching and repair, you know. So let's just try to do this right, but we're going to have probably have a few more people looking at that and staffing to go out and look at these projects, sign them off, because that's what has to happen. You can't just give someone a permit at 7-Eleven. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question, the same question for all of you, we're going to begin with Suk this time, is as you know, as you heard, Surrey has the largest urban Indigenous population within British Columbia. How are you going to work with our Indigenous communities from an economic development perspective? And how are you going to ensure that they have the housing developments that they need? Suk, please respond.
Thank you. And part of the reconciliation process is to make sure that we are able to acknowledge our ancestors, the First Nations, and also build housing. The way she said, I still remember the Kakno housing project in my own constituency, which was built with the help of federal government and the provincial government at that time. And that is exactly what we got to do. We cannot say that it is my way or the highway. Mayor and council has to work together with the federal government and provincial government to take advantage of all the programs that they have to help our Indigenous communities, whether it's housing, whether it's the employment development, or the skills development, and also the education. And that is where I'm committed as I belong to the party.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gordon.
Thank you. I believe what Suk's saying is right. We have to have 3 levels of government working with respect to this. I've been very close to the Semiahmoo First Nation. One of our foster children is Indigenous. And the work that Semiahmoo First Nation just got water supply about 2 years ago, and that was part of the work that we did to get that. That is, in my opinion, deplorable. And that we should be able to make coordinated, integrated approaches to dealing with that. And we should be talking with and working with the Indigenous community in a much more active fashion than we currently are. We know that people who have lived experience, who are living those experiences, are the ones who should be advising us. It's not the people who are getting reports sent to them. It's the people who are going to be implicated and the recipient of whatever that policy or practice might be. So we've got to meet with the Indigenous people and put that together in a way that fits and works for them, not for other people.
Thank you very much. Brenda.
Well, first of all, we have to do a land acknowledgement when we're doing any public business, and I don't know why we rejected that. That was odd. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay, sorry. First of all, we have to do Indigenous land acknowledgements at every single meeting. That's the very, very beginning and the very least we could do. But we do need to work a lot closer with our Indigenous friends and with FRAFCA, with the people that are the land on which we are settled on right now. We just recently did an approval, actually, on Monday for a large housing development that FRAFCA's, and I'm very, very happy about that. That went through quickly. I think we need to keep on trying our best to make sure that every time we're doing land use issues, we consult at the front end, not at the back end, which is exactly what has been happening in the last 4 years. We need to talk to our Indigenous neighbors, friends, and the people that the land on which we live. We need to talk to them at the front end of all of the projects we do, and certainly on the
Thank you very
transition.
much. Kuldeep.
Okay, and housing is important, and not only Indigenous, but everybody is looking for housing these days. It has become so terrible condition. Okay, so we have to talk to them, listen to them, what their exact requirements are, and then work with the provincial and federal government to get for funding and find the suitable partners to develop housing for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Ginny.
Thank you very much. I feel really proud to be part of a provincial government that enacted the first legislation across the country enshrining truth and reconciliation and moving forward. For me, I live and breathe this. It does not stop with land acknowledgements. It really means how we work nation to nation and work in full partnership. We don't have the answers. The answers rests with the First Nations and rests with the communities. And this is where we can play a part in working with the provincial and federal government, but not to find a solution, but to make sure that there is a table where these negotiations can take place and where we can collaborate and work together. This is an area that has been not long neglected, so I don't talk about equal treatment here. I'm talking about equitable treatment, which means we have to put more focus into this area than many others. Thank you.
Thank you. John.
One of the first things we can do is amend the Indian Act. A person on the reserve can't own their own house, the band owns it. So if we know passing down money through various levels of government, so what we do is we take that money, we build housing, give them pride of ownership. That's what happens when you have something in the game, your skin in the game, you take care of it. But they have nothing to look forward to. This is also, they get assigned these houses. All of us, if that was the case, you would probably say, I'm just leaving Surrey and see you later. So this has to take place, and this is part of the reconciliation, is an economic one.
Thank you. Amrit.
I have been brainstorming a lot to understand what reconciliation means. I have heard government after government saying, we will do reconciliation, but I have no idea why they don't do it. And what does it mean? Since Europeans invaded Canada, does that mean we all go back? Or does that mean we need to pay money? So I'm trying to understand that. I can't. Regarding housing, everyone is in the same boat. So I believe Indigenous people have a lot of land. So I don't understand why the housing is not built. As John alluded that they don't own, people don't own houses there. So I don't know who will build the housing. Someone has to. So I really need to understand problem to propose the solution. Same thing goes for jobs. We all have equal opportunity.
Thank you very much. And we will begin with Gordy Hogue, for the next question round. So if you're elected as mayor, what will your economic and jobs plan be for Surrey? Gordon.
Thank you. Firstly, of all the people who live in Surrey and work, 30% of them work outside of Surrey because we don't have enough jobs in Surrey. And that's an important statement in terms of where we are. In fact, I've got some other statistics, like you set me up for this one. Vancouver has 50,000 business licenses. In Surrey, we have 19,000 business licenses. We have, in Vancouver, they have 2.4 million square feet of office space. In Surrey, we have 200,000. So we need to be able to create places where we live, work, play together, and be able to have that in our community. So we've got to start looking at rezoning and making sure that we rezone things to create the jobs. We've done a great job at the town center, but most of it is residential. We need to have more jobs that are close to where the residents are, so we don't have people moving outside of the city, and we know how crowded our roads are now.
Thank you. Brenda.
Thank you. First of all, I would re-engage the relationship between the City of Surrey and Metro Vancouver. They have got an economic development program that the City of Surrey decided not to participate in, even though we pay for it. The second thing I would do is hire people that are good at economic development. We haven't done a very good job. In fact, we've done a pretty crummy job, to be honest with you, in the last 4 years on economic development, and I think that needs to change. And the third thing I would do is build a really good relationship with the Surrey Board of Trade and the City of Surrey. There is a very poor relationship, and that is not okay. That is not serving business development in our city, not even a little bit. But Gordy is right. We do want to aspire for a job for every resident, and that is something that is achievable for us in Surrey. We have the capacity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Kuldeep?
To bring jobs in the city, we have to do the lot like other cities do. We have to develop this city as a real city, bring more businesses here, office towers, colleges, universities, they have to open here, or start to give special incentive to those businesses to bring their business here in Surrey. So that's the only way. We have to bring more business or start some special industry like export-oriented industry. They build here, manufacture here, and they export all over the world. They will bring revenue to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Ginny?
Thank you very much. It starts off with having a good relationship with the Surrey Board of Trade, which has been the economic engine for Surrey for as long as I have been here. And also, we have announced the creation of 4 additional BIAs in order to make those links in the community. But one of the key movers and shakers is we are a huge city. We have the capacity. We have industrial land. We need to bring in manufacturing and other industries. We've got our university district, but we've got the potential to be the Silicon Valley. We don't have to be happy just with having warehousing jobs. They're good too, but we need to attract high-level, highly qualified people. Our people are our strength. Our diversity is our economic engine. And I believe with the diaspora and the linkages there is huge potential for international development as well. But one of the key factors is
Thank you very much.
City Hall that has
John.
The average business pandemic debt is $170,000. So what they have to do is pay that off, generate new income, and hire people. A lot of these people aren't going to make it. In Vancouver, they tax the airspace above a business and actually put that in the triple net. Maybe our solution is to share the triple net, split it between the property owner and the tenant, and then this way we can all stick and share in the equity that the business owner is actually collecting the equity and the other person has nothing to show for it. So that airspace is, I hate to use the term this, but it's like taxing flatulence, right? It has a really bad idea.
Amrit.
What's economics? Economics is people who specialize in manufacturing, they manufacture and sell to others. Like Apple sells iPhone to us, we sell agricultural products to someone. So one way and the only way to spur economic activity is develop some industrial areas where you offer subsidized land to the new companies. Either they relocate from somewhere or they have incentive to open new industries. Come up with lower taxes. You can't higher taxes kill industries. You need to have lower taxes. You have to have ready, trained labor available. If you do that, it will spur the private entrepreneurship. It will take care of itself. In addition, I want to see a massive university complex in Fraser Valley along with Industrial Park, High-Tech Park, and it will spur massive growth. Thank you.
Suk.
I would like to echo the comments made earlier. Anita, the work that you do and the Surrey Board of Trade does, and thank you for doing that great work. You know, when we see a candidate, and in fact a sitting mayor does not show up here today, this is saddening. We need to use the resources that we have, like Surrey Board of Trade and other BIAs, but we also can take advantage now. As British Columbian, we are very fortunate that it used to be a Western economic diversification. Now we have Pacific Economic Agency, whose head office is right here in Surrey, set up by the federal government recently. We can go from research to commercialization. That department is there to help the kids that are coming out of the university, to give them the businesses that are starting, to give them the opportunity to progress and create jobs here locally.
Thank you very much. So Brenda, we'll start with you for the next question cycle. It's businesses that bear the burden of taxation, and businesses have faced significant tax increases these past 4 years. If you're elected mayor, how are you going to support our business community in the face of rising costs and increasing taxation? Do you support a corporate vote? Brenda.
Well, thank you. I think there's kind of two parts to that. I have met with a lot of people in the business community, and I have to tell you, I've been shocked to hear how their taxes have gone up over the last 4 years. One business in particular went up 200%. That's just not, that's insufferable. That can't happen. There does need to be an absolute review of how we are taxing businesses. You're right. We do get the lion's share of the taxation from business, but we have to be very cognizant of how we're doing that. The other challenge that I think we all are facing with corporate taxation is the coming 2 years are going to be tough for everybody. We are heading to a recession. We need to be well aware of that, and we need to make sure that we are encouraging jobs, because that, at the end of the day, is our goal, and we need to make sure that we have equity. In terms of the vote...
Thank you very much. Kuldeep?
First of all, we have to compare the taxation here with other Canadian cities. And we'll adjust the taxes paid by our businesses accordingly. And then the companies who are starting out, especially special businesses, we can give them concession in taxation so that they grow up, and we can even give them some further subsidies or grants to develop. Thank you.
Thank you. Ginny?
We're going to hold the line on taxes, and today, going through the legislature was a very important piece of legislation, and it was receiving support from all sides of the House, and that is that legislation that will give protection to non-profits and to small-sized businesses from their rents increasing when property values go up. I think those are the kind of creative solutions, and I know, Anita, you have been advocating for that for a long time, but that legislation is going through today, and that is one way. The other thing we've got to do is, when you asked about the corporate vote, right now I'm ambivalent, and I need more information, but certainly willing to sit down and explore it.
Thank you very much. John?
Let's get back to the shared expense ratio on property taxes. That should be win-win to draw people and businesses to the area. On the corporate vote, I think that we look at the corporations pay way above the residential. So if they're putting money in our pockets to build schools, infrastructure and stuff like that, I 100% support a vote for the corporate sector.
Thank you. Emmerich.
There are two approaches to taxing business. First is when some businesses are doing well, the governments get greedy and increase their tax. That's a dumb approach. Second is you lower the taxes. Businesses do better, more businesses move in. So your per business tax lowers, but your tax base increases. That's a wise approach, and that's a standard worldwide approach. There's nothing new discovery there. Apparently, in 1980s, we had a big silicon manufacturing in BC. NDP government came, and they specialized in taxing the people hell out of them. That's what they did, and that moved to California, which we know as Silicon Valley. So please learn from this. Lower taxes, increase tax base, more companies move in, everyone wins. Thank you.
Sue.
When we announced the United Surrey team to run, we brought in the 4-point plan. The first one was to freeze the property taxes for the first year and roll back. This mayor and council brought in a hidden tax from $100 to $300. We said we will bring it back to $100. And also we said in 100 days of in the office, every business should get a temporary business license in 3 days. And that is very, very important. I know some of the people might not know the City Hall process. Being a professional engineer and a land surveyor, in 2004, the permit was submitted in half hour. We did not need a federal courier. We could do that right away, and we should be able to do right away if we are given a chance to form the government. And certainly, when it comes to the vote, we will support that.
Thank you very much. Gordy.
Well, the taxation rates now, at one point, they were much higher on industrial and lower on residential. Now it's getting very close to the same levels, and I think that's something that needs to be explored and looked at in terms of how that should be, the breakout should be with respect to that. Clearly, we've discussed, but we need more jobs in here. We need more places where people can work, and we've got to create communities where that can happen. With respect to the vote and whether or not that should be given, I can remember back when I was in high school, a friend of mine's father owned, I think, 8 businesses, and he told me he had 9 votes. So if we're going to look at that, we'd better explore that, because I don't want to see people getting 9 votes because they own 8 different businesses and are able to do that. So a number of conditions and values would have to be placed on that to ensure that if somebody lived outside of the community but had a business in it, then I could see them having 1 vote. But I'm not going to see what happened before. That would be anti-democratic, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. So next round, we're going to begin with Kuldeep, and the question is related to crime. And we know crime prevention is not only about changing the police force in our city, it's about a holistic model that involves everyone. If you're elected mayor, how are you going to enhance our public safety infrastructure? Kuldeep, over to you first.
See, we have to talk with various communities. We have to talk with parents. We have to talk with sociologists, to talk with psychologists to find a way to reduce crime. Because everybody should be involved there. You have to see the basic cause why the crime takes place, and we also have to find the right way to combat it. We have to train the police force that way. We have to teach them so that they have all the patience and all the tactics to deal with those people. Thank you.
Thank you. Ginny.
Thank you very much. Number one, we need a community safety charter. Here in Surrey, we haven't had one. We've certainly had a mayor and council that have spent the last 4 years fighting over the uniform of the police instead of dealing with safety and security. That is so, so important. So for me, having a safety charter with having targets in there, and that safety charter has to be multifaceted. So when we're talking to our police and we're asking them to make improvements in the amount of crime, both on domestic and I would say against houses and businesses, they are targets and following that. The same way, looking at the gang activity and the shootings we've had recently, coming up with plans for that. There is no sweet pill, but without a plan, there is no way forward either. So for me, have a concrete plan, have it staged, have it targets, and then hold
Thank you
the
very
precinct
much. John.
accountable.
Well, we can start at the root level. We can get kids more involved in sports at a level that they, young soccer players, stuff like that. That's a great crime deterrent. But the other thing is you have to appeal to the side of the teenager and stuff like that. My philosophy is this, that a mother's grief knows no color. Don't give them your mother something that she has to live the rest of her life with. So this is what the problem is. You have to appeal to their side and hope. You can't save everybody, but we have to save the ones we can and divert them from this activity. There's a few hardcore in this group that no matter what you do, you'll never change them. So just lock them up and that'll solve the problem.
Thank you. Amrit.
The level of crime in a society is the reflection of the society. When there's a more crime, it means something is not right. Most of the times, either there's a high level of unemployment or there's a high level of stress, like locking people down in the COVID. They stress a lot of people. They have different mechanisms. Some go into drugs, fentanyl. I believe there's a lot of suicides and drug overdose deaths are happening. Probably 10 to 20 times more than gang shootings. A lot of people eat unhealthy because of stress, cancer, heart attacks, you name it. There are a lot of deaths happening. Simple car accidents every day. So we need to look at entirety. I think we are, just because crime makes it sensational news, we are focusing too much on it. We need to make society overall healthy, give youth employment and motivation. Thank you.
Thank you. Suk.
United Surrey has laid out a detailed plan on public safety. We'll have a 4-tier system. We will strengthen our bylaw department to deal with the complaints like noise, graffiti, littering. And we will have a traffic police dealing with traffic and the accidents that are happening here. And we will have more mental health professionals that will be dealing with the mental health issues that the population is facing instead of our police dealing with that. We will leave the police to deal with the criminal activities that are happening around town. We would also put a youth hub together, which is independent of the mayor and the council, that tell us how to help the young people that are getting into the gangs. And we will also hire 15 firefighters for the next 5 years and a new fire hall to deal with the firefighting capabilities that we have.
Thank you very much. Gordy?
Thank you. When I was a probation officer, I used to ride with the RCMP one weekend a month, and we went to all the domestic violence and all the gang activities. And it was my job, not carrying a gun, not wearing a uniform, to calm things down. And over 30% of the crimes now are as a result of drug addiction and mental health issues, and we have to respond more effectively and positively to that. We also need to have both a short-term and a long-term plan. We need a short-term plan, but we're going to give our judges some more options. For instance, now, you can put a bracelet on your wrist, and that bracelet will show if you're an offender of some sort and you've been not allowed to be in a particular area, it will show when you cross into that area. We had somebody that had 368 complaints against them in 1 year, and yet nothing happened to them. If we'd had them on a bracelet, we could have done that. And then we need a long-term plan, a 5 and 10-year plan, and there are some very good plans that are functioning well in the world, and we need to use it right here in Surrey and in British Columbia.
Thank you very much. Brenda?
Well, thank you. Policing and public safety is one of the biggest bites out of a budget for any city. So first of all, we're going to keep the RCMP in Surrey. Without doing that, we will never be able to afford all of the resources we need to do. We will never be able to resource the fire. We need to increase resources to fire. We need to increase resources to our police department, and we will. We need to increase resources to our bylaws department. There is no question about that. But we also need to increase resources that will help on the preventative side, and that is with children and youth, and that means we have to build more amenities and facilities for young people, because we won't see that in the immediate, but we will see that downstream, and it's important that we give our children and our youth an opportunity to use their time wisely and not in a destructive way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll begin with Ginny for the next question cycle, and let's talk about transportation. You can fit the cities of Vancouver, Richmond, Burnaby in the geographic limits of Surrey. If you're elected mayor, what will your transportation priorities be? Ginny.
Thank you very much for that question. Number one, it would be to build a SkyTrain down King George, through Newton, to South Surrey, because we've had a huge population growth at that side. People really thought the last time they voted in the last election that when LRT was not happening, that the SkyTrain was actually going to down King George, but the council unanimously voted to put that down Fraser Highway and the other way. While that SkyTrain is being built, and of course the money would come from the federal and provincial government, and you all know I'm a pretty good negotiator and a bargainer, and we will bring that money because we haven't had our share. Secondly, in the meantime, we need more rapid bus routes. We need rapid buses to run every 10 minutes, and we need extended hours till midnight, because people do work shifts and students do go out. So, number three, what we need to make sure is we widen our roads, have 2 one-way systems, and...
Thank you very much. John?
Oh, I'm your transportation candidate. I've done the whole campaign on the bus. This is a shout out to all the transit drivers. They actually got me around, and I know there's glitches in the system, but I had one last night that actually was not in service, and he ripped me all the way to Cloverdale. So thank you for that. The whole thing is, if you're looking at fiscal responsibility, you don't have to worry about the car allowance for me. I'll donate it to charity and probably affordable housing. So we all win that way, you know. I mean, I just work what I have to do, but the thing is, that was what I looked at. I went to Campbell Heights and all this stuff, and we have to have this for the jobs. We have to increase the buses first, and the SkyTrain in Langley should have been finished first. Let's not talk about Newton, White Rock, and all these fantasy things.
Thank you very much. Amrit?
I can't match John, but I have taken SkyTrain and bus combination my entire life, commuting from Surrey to downtown back and forth every day in my job. So I understand the importance of public transit. And I also have lived in various cities like New Delhi, Singapore, and now Canada. And the standard solution is we need to think bold. We can't think about build a train to Newton and that's it. What we need to do is, we have Surrey map, we need to run a train around it, connecting entire Surrey top to bottom. Whether we do in stages or whether we get funding from federal and province, but we need to think big. And each station, the local feeder buses, and that's our long-term solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Suk?
Prior to this mayor and council taking the seat, the money for the transit system was in place with the help of course, Gordy and myself were there when we fought for that. From the federal government, 40% money that came in, and from the provincial, 40% came from there as well. But this mayor and council, instead of helping Newton, South Surrey, and Guildford decided to help Langley. If people give us a chance, we will be committed to make sure that people of Surrey are given priority and work with the federal and the provincial government, as we did in the past, to bring in the resources to help the transit system that we need for Surrey residents and businesses to do better.
Thank you. Gordy.
Well, as Suk said, the city came and applied to us for funding in Ottawa, and we believed it was going to Newton. They changed their mind, and we believe that the decision should remain in Surrey rather than Ottawa. That's why we agreed with that. We also, I used to be on the Transit Commission for 4 years representing the city of Surrey and looked at a number of different options. One of the things that we could do now, and I just met recently with a member of the board, and he said that they actually have something that looks exactly like SkyTrain, but it's on wheels. And you could, like we have bus lanes, it could run down the side of King George Boulevard, and it could be coordinated, computerized with the light, so it would go right through and be able to do that. And it would cost between 1/9 and 1/10 the cost of building it as a SkyTrain. We could get it much more quickly, it would be equally as effective, and we would have a chance to be able to build spikes off that with the funding that was there for it. I think that's something we should do and do quickly.
Thank you. Brenda.
Well, thank you. And I still do support the SkyTrain that goes right through to not only Langley, with all due respect, it also hits a number of communities like Fleetwood and Clayton and Cloverdale, and we need to service those people too. But I will tell you that Surrey is in dire need of transportation networks and public transit, and we need it today. So absolutely, that means the bus system. That is the fastest and most efficient way we can get additional public transit happening right now and today. And I think the other thing I wanted to talk to was what Gordy's talking about, and it's called BRT, Bus Rapid Transit. They're using it all over the world. It's absolutely efficient. It does run on the side rails, just like we have all the way down King George, and it can go all the way down to South Surrey. South Fraser needs in, and South Fraser has never got its fair share. Surrey is the pivot of that, and we need to fight for our region.
Thank you very much. Kuldeep.
I've been writing to TransLink about this for years to improve bus service in Surrey. We need a frequency of bus services increased because the buses are too overcrowded. Then I need direct bus service to UBC, to SFU, to airport, and to Abbotsford, and to Maple Ridge. Then I also need this SkyTrain. I'm telling them that they should start planning now from Scott Road to Newton and from King George to Whitehall. And also they should improve they should bring in night service on certain routes, because this is very important. Because lots of students, they study in different parts of Vancouver, but they live in Surrey. So we need night service as well, plus better frequency and direct bus service to UBC and SFU. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. John, over to you. How are you, if you're elected mayor, going to make arts and culture a real part of Surrey's economic development strategy?
Well, Abbotsford has a nice little 7,000-seater. There's a guy called John Fogarty that used to be in Creedence Clearwater. He's actually been there probably about 15 times. It's 7,000 seats, so basically it's not oversized, but it would be sort of like an arts center, and we would bring in medium-level bands and festivals and stuff like that. We on the fairgrounds, we have something like a Tradex building that's basically 2,800 people, but we could probably get something in the 7,000 range in that area. And then we could have all the stuff, instead of going to Abbotsford or down to Vancouver, we can have all this other stuff happening in Surrey.
Thank you. Amarit.
Arts and culture is very important for our artistic expression and for good of our soul. But now that people can't even pay rent, so probably they don't think that far. But assuming we sort out our basic problems, we should build some art centers, some concert halls, so that people have way to get together and mix with each other. And we should involve youth in the schools to, in arts and culture, express themselves more, and it's good for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Suk.
Arts and culture is part of the economic engine anyways. The way we look, Surrey is a very diverse community. And we can take the advantage of our indigenous peoples, the new communities that has moved into Surrey to build state-of-the-art arts and cultural centers, which will create jobs in the hospitality industry and others as well. And personally, I support the local artists. If you come to my office, you will see we have probably one of the best artists, around the world, that we hang their, pictures and their art, and it's so beautiful that we can use this to attract more and more hospitality or people that are here on the tourism, not just into Vancouver, but also into Surrey.
Thank you very much. Gordy.
I believe we need to have a performing arts center in the town center. We talk about live, work, and play in the same place. We need to have something there. And there has been some discussion. There are some developers who, given a little bit of more height, a little bit more space, are willing to fund part of that in that area. I think that would be a very important part of it. The Bell Center is just too far removed from that, having that connections together. So we need to have that so it will be able to encourage others, but it'll also be a place, instead of so many people getting on here and riding a SkyTrain to go into Vancouver, to go to the performing arts centers there, we need them to be coming this way, because we're going to have a better place and more people involved and a more engaging and positive place right here in Surrey.
Thank you. Brenda.
Well, thank you. First of all, I will help fund the Surrey Orchestra. It is really an amazing orchestra. If you get a chance to ever hear from them, they are just absolutely fabulous, and they are way underfunded. We are too big a city not to have our own orchestra, and we need to do that. I will also look at starting the planning to do redevelopment at Cloverdale so that there is a sports and entertainment district in Cloverdale. That needs to happen on the grounds there. Those grounds are way underutilized for our city. And I think the third thing I want to talk about is in Fleetwood. Fleetwood, some time ago, was promised to have a cultural center right where the old 2Es, for those of you who know the area, was. That would be a great place to start and start with that cultural center right there in the center and on the SkyTrain. Thank you.
Thank you. Kuldeep.
I think we should have a real good performing arts center like the Queen's Elizabeth in Vancouver. And we should also encourage, because we have different types of cultures here, we should encourage ethnic music and their folk songs, and giving them special grants, so that becomes city very more interesting, more people involved in culture. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenny.
For a city to be a vibrant city, we need arts, we need culture, we need recreation, we need sports. And I'm proud to say that yesterday we did announce a stadium for soccer, seating up to 10,000 people. There is the World Cup for soccer coming up, and this would be a venue, one way to bring tourism and activity right into Surrey, and it would be completed before then. Plus, we announced a theatre that would be large enough to hold Broadway shows. It would have other entertainment districts, but also a smaller theatre of about 200 to 400 people in order to nurture and grow the local talent, which is very, very important as well. We need an entertainment district. We need a go-to place. We need to attract tourism. We don't have such a place, and I'm very excited that when elected, we're going to build it.
Thank you very much. So everyone on stage, we're going to now go into the one-on-one debate. So Amrit, we're going to begin with you. You're going to choose a person on stage, ask them a question, and then candidates, you have 1 minute to respond. So Amrit, over to you to select.
My question will be to my friend Sukh Dhaliwal. He belongs to Liberal Party. He's there in the governing, and Justin Trudeau is Prime Minister. So in last 3 years, two years during COVID, which is questionable, it's a pandemic or not, why did his government, through Parliament, pass the laws, and why did he ratify them when they broke the basic medical principle, first do no harm, whereas the vaccine, a lot of people are suffering a lot of side effects. Why did they?
Please state your question. Please state your question.
Okay. Why did they violate the principle of informed consent, where when you give someone medicine, you tell them facts, and it's their choice to take it or not? Why did they force on people?
Sukh.
I would love to have questions like this. Being a professional, I believe in professionals and their judgment and the advice that they give it to us. The scientists and the professionals gave Prime Minister and the caucus and the members of Parliament the advice that we followed to save lives. And if I look at the record in Canada, we are the leaders. We are the leaders when it comes to pandemic, not only making decisions about the vaccination, but also when it came to support the businesses and the Canadians. 80% of the money came from the federal government, and I tell you, I stand here and defend the Prime Minister and the Cabinet making that decision to make our country a better country, make our society a better society.
Thank you very much. So Sukh, your selection, please.
Here we go. So he asked the question to the left. I'm going to have a question to the left as well. Gordy, don't go away. Sometimes we can use the advice from others, We come up with platforms, certainly, with our expertise, but there are other expertise that we can.
If you can just state your question.
Question is very simple. Gordy, you being in the provincial federal scene, how would you see the public safety in Surrey, which is one of the top priorities, can do better?
You told me you were going to ask me a question. You didn't tell me it was going to be that one. I told you I wanted to ask me how many dimples were on a golf ball. So there are a number of things that can be done. And again, we need to have public safety is crucial. I sit on something called the Terrorism, Violence and Security Institute at Simon Fraser University. And we coordinate with University of Melbourne, with London, England, New York, Israel, and Western Europe. The crime in our area, the gang members are unique. Here, they come from very wealthy families. The only other place in the world they come from wealthy families is Western Europe. So we need to be able to look at and approach that. Some of the things they're doing is they're approaching children that are younger than the Young Offenders Act, who cannot be charged, and they're giving them $100 and saying, you go take these drugs and move them. So those things have to be, we have to give the judges another option. I mentioned the bracelets. Those types of options have to be given to the judges so that we can't allow these people to commit 350 times they're reported and nothing's done.
Thank you very much. Gordy, your selection.
Is it legitimate for me to ask Doug McCallum a question and then go over and answer it? No, I would be very respectful. Is that okay if I do that? No, I'd be very respectful, I promise.
Sure, go ahead. It'll be entertaining.
Okay, Doug, I understand that you weren't able to come here tonight for whatever reason that might be. But my question to you is, why have you chosen to keep saying that the tax increases are only like 2.9%? That doesn't make any sense at all. Wow, Gordy, you jerk. Why would you bring this up? Well, we did keep it actually at 2.9, but we did sort of fudge that a little bit because we took a lot of other dollars and we moved them over there. And so we could keep increasing the spending that we're having. We sold a lot of the property that should have been with the Surrey Development Corporation because we wanted to keep the prices down. So we don't have as much property as we used to have, unfortunately, but we kept the prices down. Not good for the city, but hopefully good for some of the people. Thank you for the question.
Thank you very much. Brenda, your selection.
You know, I was going to ask Doug a question as well, and my question would have been to Doug if he's going to apologize to Lauren and all of the people that were so let down when he turned over or didn't allow the Harmony Apartments to go forward, and if he was going to apologize to all the seniors who got kicked out of City Hall and all of the embarrassment he has caused the residents of the city of Surrey. I would have asked him that, but I am pretty sure there's...
Is that your selection then?
No, I'll ask the question to Ginny. Ginny, your campaign manager, Stephen Carter, has been let go from a number of positions over the last number of years. And I think there's a great deal of concern if you read some of this stuff on the newspaper from Alberta about your campaign manager. The question is, have you promised Mr. Carter the Chief of Staff position if you are elected?
Ginny.
You know what, I could ask a question.
If you can use the microphone.
I usually think my voice is loud enough. But anyway, as I was saying, I could ask a question of the mayor too and give a monologue here, but I'm going to say no. Nobody has been promised the job as Chief of Staff. And secondly, my campaign manager is not on the ballot box. Ginny Sims is, and I will answer the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kuldeep, your selection, please.
My question is for Brenda Locke. Brenda, for the last 4 years, you fought Doug McCallum like anything. Did you do anything else apart from that? Did you do anything else apart from opposing Doug McCallum? Did you do anything to improve infrastructure in city or improve services in city? That's part one of the question. Part two of the question, in the next 4 years, apart from working to bring police back to RCMP, what is your other agenda? What will you do else?
Brenda.
Part one and part two.
Thank you. I think I have done quite a bit in the last 4 years. I can tell you this has not been what I had hoped it would be for my first term in as a councillor. But I have fought for people every step of the way, especially when it comes to people that are in need, and I've stood up for them every step of the way. I started a food program right at the beginning of COVID. We ended up serving 100,000 meals to those people in need, and that was with the grace and the kindness of the people of Surrey, and that's one of the reasons I love this city so much. What's your second part, Kuldeep?
If you were elected as a mayor, apart from bringing police back to RCMP, what else will you do?
You know, it's not just about bringing the RCMP back. It's about increasing public safety in the city so people feel good and safe about their city again. But the other thing that I'm absolutely committed to is to making Surrey residents proud of their city again. We have been embarrassed for 4 years. This has to end.
Thank you very much. Ginny, your selection.
Thank you. My question is going to be for Brenda. And I absolutely agree that we need to bring back the city to a working city that works for everybody. Brenda, you chose to run on Doug McCallum's team. And today, you are against policing change to the Surrey Police Service. but you voted for that change. How can we trust your estimates when you tell us that the cost is going to be $521 million when you were so wrong when you voted to change to the Surrey Police Service?
Brenda.
So, as anybody who would know provincial legislation, which includes the community charter, they would know that, in fact, local government is contiguous. So in 2018, July 23rd, the previous council was the one that actually established the go-forward for the police, for the review of the police transition. It was not Doug McCallum, even though he would love you to believe that. It's not true. It was a motion brought forward by Tom Gill, and that was a contiguous motion. So obviously, that comes forward to the next council. All of those processes were in place. Doug McCallum buried them all. We didn't have that information in front of me or in front of any of us on council. It was all hidden and in secret, and that's why I said no.
Thank you. John, your selection.
I'm a member of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and one of the things that I signed was a pledge. So to all you on a raise of hands, would you also sign a pledge to support recall legislation at the municipal level?
Who is your question to?
I want to raise a hands, a show of hands. Who? Okay, would you support recall legislation at the municipal level? Show of hands, please.
Okay, so that's your question.
That's
Thank you
my
very
question.
much. Thank you. All right, so we have more questions, everyone. So we're going to begin with Amrit, and it's the same question for all of you. And you know, a third of Surrey's land base is agricultural lands. If you're elected mayor, how are you going to work with our agricultural industry and those that are affiliated with it? Amrit.
I think in addition to selling the raw agriculture products, we need to build agri-based industries. We should have our own industry. We should not use to import chips and cookies and all this stuff. Building our own industry will generate a lot of jobs, and that's good for everyone. And product will be cheaper and better. It's locally sourced. We can go organic. So I will go for setting up agri-based industry. Thank you.
Thank you. Suk.
Recently, we have seen slogans, no farmers, no food. In fact, that's true. And we have a massive agricultural land base, and we have seen, farmers growing different fruits and different vegetables, and we as a city can have a better agriculture committee, not just to deal with the ALR lands, in fact, to see how we can help the agriculture industry to do better and innovate. So as new parts of the things that come up, I mean, I have seen industry growing in Kelowna and Penticton and Soyuz, and why can't we do that here as well and provide them the resources and the help that they need?
Thank you very much. Gordy?
Well, some years ago, a fellow on our campaign, Mike Bose, who's here this evening, started the Agricultural Advisory Committee. It was the first one that happened in Surrey, and it went around the province. Surrey canceled it. The current mayor canceled it. They are the experts in terms of telling us how we can expand the agricultural land. We need to make, again, making decisions with people who have lived experience with it. Mike and the people that he had on that committee have lived experience with respect to agriculture. They're out there working every day. Agriculture is the biggest employer in Surrey right now. And we have to be sure that we support that. We're very blessed to have the land that we have. As it's been said, we've got more land than Vancouver Burnaby and Richmond combined. And a lot of that's agricultural land, and we need to expand that, and we need to make sure that we have the advisory committee back in place to inform the elected people in terms of how they can effectively make that grow.
Thank you. Brenda.
Well, thank you. And before it was an agricultural land committee, it was a commission. It was a properly instilled commission in Surrey, and we do need to have that brought back. We need to have the people that actually farm the land working on the committee and delivering the kind of information. They did incredible work for us for about the first 8 months of this term of this office, and I can tell you it has been a slippery slope ever since this mayor had canceled it. So we need to bring the committee back and actually look at taking it one step further to be a commission. The other thing I would say to you is that food security in our city, in our region, is critical to all of us, and we need to be always respectful and always mindful that we need to make sure we're protecting our growing lands, and that's something that we are not doing right now. There is all kinds of interference in the ALR.
Thank you very much. Kuldeep.
Okay. By the way, I have a degree in agricultural engineering. I have lots of knowledge about agriculture, modern agriculture. So we have to set up a committee in the city to look after the farmers and how to see how they can modernize their farming and how to market their produce profitably and how to increase their production. Because we have lots of land and good land, we should be self-sufficient in our agricultural produce. We should not import everything from USA or from New Zealand or from Australia. So we have to work together and we have to make farming very efficient and productive. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenny.
I think Mother Nature has sent us a huge signal over the last number of years with the heat dome and the floods and the climate change we are experiencing. We have an absolute responsibility to look after food security, not only for us, but those in our region as well. We are very blessed with some of the richest agricultural land. We need to start using innovation. Agri-tech is a growing industry. And we also need to learn from other jurisdictions. We don't have all the answers, but I can tell you buying local is good for our health, it's good for our pockets, and it's also good for Mother Earth. So for me, focusing in on protecting our agricultural land, using technology to get more growth done, but also growing our agriculture sector so that we do some more of the processing here. And the idea of a food hub is absolutely amazing.
Thank you very much. John.
Buy local is a great idea. Now we're talking about supporting farmers, business people. If we also trucking these things over big distances if we buy out of an area. So there's environmental impact we got to look at. But these people won't be in business unless we provide them with the way to sell their wares. So this is ideal. We all get out there. There's plenty of farms below number 10 highway. You can go drive down to this roadside stands on 64th. I seen over by Bo's farm there. The guy selling it. Go down there and give him a few dollars, and they, keep this thing going. And all that we can say is right now is Dave Barrett was the guy in 1979 that protected the ALR. Others are going to be talking about this right now.
Thank you very much. My final question before we go into closing remarks is the Surrey Board of Trade, we do believe that in this economy, every single person matters. If you're elected mayor, how are you going to ensure that our population, our young population, those that are hard of hearing, persons with disabilities, our seniors, are all part of Surrey's economic engine? Emmerich.
I believe every person has some capability. If you are impaired in one sense, you are overdrive in other senses. And we need to find appropriate professions and jobs based upon their abilities, and that's a win-win for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Suk.
persons with disabilities need to be included. This society is an inclusive society that we should be able to pay attention to. And yesterday, Ginny and myself, we were sitting somewhere and we talked about this accessibility issue. You know, Stephanie Kudu been appointed a national director to help those that needs the help with the accessibility. And when it comes to young people, certainly, you know, we as a city can also play a role. And this is where, if you look at the last mayor and the council, they have never been to Ottawa once. I have seen other mayors, other councillors coming to, of course, I think you were there once, Brenda and Jack were there. Sorry, Brenda, I didn't mean you, but the other team. So they weren't there. So we have to form relationships with provincial government and federal.
Thank you very much. Gordy.
Well, with respect to youth and again, engaging, I was a Minister of Children and Families in this province for a number of years, and we created something called Community Living BC. And that had to have on that board people with intellectual disabilities, as well as all of the other people had to have relatives. And that was a very active and positive way of doing things. We received an award from an organization called Inclusion International, which I had never heard of. But they said the process that we used in terms of taking and using and involving people. So we would do that. We believe that we should have a youth advisory committee that would be reporting right to the mayor and through council to the mayor, so that that stays informed. Clearly, people with different types of challenges need to have full access to everything. And we got to make sure that we're doing a far better job in terms of ensuring that our whole city is accessible and is available to all people with whatever their needs may be.
Thank you very much. Brenda.
Well, thank you. Surrey Connect probably has the youngest team of all of us. 6 of our people are under the age of 45, and one of them is the youngest at 23. We are absolutely committed to young people and making sure that they have an open door to get into the job market, and however we can help facilitate that, we absolutely will. We are on the record of having a youth advisory committee that will speak directly to the mayor, and that is to make sure with everything we do, not just the job markets, but everything we're doing, we're including youth in that dialogue. I think in terms of people with disabilities, they are an absolute untapped employment resource. We know how many jobs are out there that can't be filled right now, and we have a great potential of people that are looking for work. We just have to make that work fit them, and I know we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kuldeep.
Yes, for young people, we have to deal with them with sympathy, and we have to give them proper social services, and we have to train them for suitable jobs if they can, to encourage them. And so we have to encourage them so they could live a fuller, better life. Social service is very important, and if they have pension should be sufficient so they can support themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenny.
Thank you very much, Anita. I've been a high school counselor, and as a high school counselor, I was also in charge of placing people for work experience and others. There are many things we need to do to make accommodations for young people to enter the workforce. And there are many ways that governments can open up doors. Our apprenticeship programs are one of them, but also a lot of the barriers for young people are economic barriers. And I'm glad that the interest rate on student loans have gone, but I would like to see further assistance. But when it comes to people with disabilities, I think this is concerted action that has to be taken by both the private and public sector. And as a city, I would set targets that I would expect to be met so that we are an inclusive employer. I have been in charge of placing students with disabilities, helping them to find jobs after high school or university, and I can tell you there's a talent.
Thank you very much.
We have
John,
not tapped.
you're next.
Well, I'm all in favor of this, but we also got to realize that people with disabilities have different needs. A different person has different needs, and we've got to be careful that we can only give them what they can handle. because otherwise you'll break them and then they'll just give up. So you've got to just take it on a case-by-case basis, and then we can maximize the return, because everybody has a contribution to make to society, but you can only expect so much from some of these people. So that's the route we have to take. We have to take it on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you very much. So now let's move into closing remarks. Each of you has 2 minutes to provide your remarks. Please look into the camera for those that are joining us digitally. Amrit, over to you.
We all live in Canada. Canada is blessed by God with land, fresh water, fresh air, fertilizer, metals and minerals, oil, uranium, agricultural land, ocean and mountains, everything that a country craves of. With similar resources, Russia put an unmanned spacecraft on moon in 1959. We, on the other hand, in the present day world, cannot even provide our own toilet paper. So what gives? We have gross incompetence at federal, provincial, and municipal levels. All they give us is misery. For 2 years, they trampled on our Charter of Rights and Freedoms, corrupted judiciary, police and media, destroyed small businesses, injected fear in the mind of young and old alike with COVID and climate change hysteria. They keep creating division in society by constantly doing propaganda about racism and gender inequality, teach elementary school kids about sex and how to transition their sex, critical race theory, anything to divide us, keep us in fear and guilt. Instead of cherishing our natural resources, establishing industries to convert them into finished goods, providing world-class infrastructure, hospitals, schools, stadiums, culture centers, accessibility for everyone, all they give us is taxes, taxes, and more taxes. Even when you die, they slap a state tax on your hard-earned assets. This is definition of vulture, not government. But then they come back again with a poker face and making feel-good statements like a salesman trying to sell a crappy car. There is a quote, "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me." So joke is really on us. But if you want to change this, you want someone fresh who is not bought out by special interest groups, who is honest and transparent, uses taxpayers' money judiciously, looks into eyes of Justin Trudeau to talk about doubled housing, gas and food prices, lowers taxes to spur economic growth, to generate enough revenue to provide infrastructure, university and stadium, and a city hall that works for everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Suk, you're next.
Thank you, Anita, again, and thank you for hosting this to the Surrey Board of Trade and your team, not only just today, but in fact, over the past many years, in fact, decades, you did an excellent work, and I'm looking forward to working with you beyond October 15th, whatever vision, because I have raised my family here in this city for the last 24 years, 25 years. I have my own small business in this constituency. When I looked around, and most importantly, people have given me privilege to be their member of parliament for 5 times. And you see at the City Hall over the past 4 years, the most divisive mayor and the council that I have ever seen, even at the cost of public safety. We can do better on public safety. We can do better on affordability. And yes, we can open up the City Hall to each and everyone, irrespective of their financial status or where they live, instead of just a couple of insiders of this mayor. To do that, we put a team together. Team is called United Surrey Team. That is a very diverse and very talented team that is committed to make sure that we are able to help provide the best public safety that each and every citizen and business needs here in Surrey, and also make sure that we bring the City Hall back to the people of Surrey and restore the integrity and trust. And please vote United Surrey.
Thank you very much. Gordy.
Surrey first created the City of Surrey Development Corporation a number of years ago. And the current mayor got rid of it. The corporation was a number of people who looked after the land owned by the city of Surrey. And they were a board that worked, and they earned a lot of money for the city of Surrey by developing that. Our town center was initiated by the work that they did. The Civic Hotel went in there. The City Hall was a part of that. That was motivated by a group of people that you elected who said we can do better and we can start setting some ground room for that to happen. We can also do that. Every time I drive by the fairgrounds in Cloverdale and see all the paved parking, I think, oh my gosh, imagine what we could do there. Imagine the things that we could do there. Imagine if we turned that over to the Surrey Development Corporation, the things that they could do consistent with the needs of our community. UBC land is done in this very same model, and they're earning over $100 million a year because they haven't sold any of their land. They've leased it, and they've allowed that to happen. And we need to use that impetus to be able to ensure that we're able to make that happen here as well. And it is such a simple process that engages the people in a meaningful way that allows the things to grow and have a good difference. As people have referenced, the reputation of Surrey has gone down a bit in the last 4 years. And a bit. Well, maybe more than a bit. Maybe I'll go over and ask Doug. So it is so important that we have a positive image, a positive vision. We speak over 100 languages here. We are the face of Canada. Surrey will be the most important city in Canada in the coming future because of that. I guess I can't go that far, but I was going to talk about, I was at Johnson Heights School about 2 weeks ago, and there was a young boy, there were all these flags coming down, and he said—
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Brenda.
Thank you.
Well, we live in just an amazing city, and I am very proud of this city. I am proud of the people in this city. I have to tell you, I haven't been so proud of the last 4 years of this mayor. But Surrey is ready to bloom. We are just on the precipice of being an absolutely amazing city, and we are building the next modern city in Canada. Probably the last one is Calgary, but Surrey is going to be on the map in the next decade. I really implore you, when you're thinking about who you're voting for, we are running on two very specific issues. The first one is ethics, and the second one is public safety. We are not going to make promises we can't keep. We are going to only promise you that we will deliver the best, the cleanest government we can. We want a city that is open to everybody. We want a city hall that belongs to you. It's not my city hall, it's everyone's city hall. I can tell you that all of our team has been very carefully chosen. They've been chosen for a whole number of reasons. Their talents. We have a lawyer, an accountant, we have a teacher, we have two teachers actually, we have a journalist, we have all kinds of talent, a businessman, and I am so proud of our people that are running with the Surrey Connect team. They have all had criminal record checks as well as credit checks. We know who our people are, and I promise you the Surrey Connect team will deliver the most ethical government for Surrey and make you all proud to be residents once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kuldeep.
Hello, I answered your question. Lots of people have asked me, Kuldeep, you are a professor, you are a social activist. Why are you going into politics? The politics is not a very good thing for you. So that's exactly the reason. I have been writing hundreds of letters, emails to the government, to the various ministers, with copies to MLAs, MPs, councillors, and mayor. Nobody has answered. That's why I want, if I get selected as mayor, it will give me more strength, more to my voice. Second thing, I want to become mayor because the city of Surrey so far is not spending money wisely. All the money either producing their property, or they are investing in land, they are investing in shares and what they call shares, those type of, that's almost $1 billion is in shares and bonds invested there. So, but we need lots of services. We need to widen the streets. Everybody agrees with that. We have too much congestion in Surrey. We have to clean up the downtown area. So we need lots of childcare spaces. We need lots of post-secondary spaces in Surrey. So we have to put lots of pressure on the provincial government to improve healthcare services. 12-hour waiting at Surrey Memorial Hospital is not a good thing. So we have to provide all four things: housing, health, education, and transportation, which all is a provincial matter, but we have to pressure them. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane.
We need a city hall that is open, transparent, and accountable. It's time we had integrity back in the office of the mayor. I believe that has been damaged over the last little while. We also need to bring fairness back to City Hall. It should not depend on who you know, but it should depend on the merits of your project. Last night or 2 nights ago, 45 projects were passed at breakneck speed without due diligence. And I think that's the kind of thing that gives us a history out there of being the wild, wild west, instead of having fair, open processes. Third, the thing that people really care about on the streets, folks, is affordability. They care about the price of housing. We have to double the supply, and that's one lever we do have. They care about the lack of transportation. We've got to do short-term as well as long-term planning, and I've already gone into that with you. They care about the fact that we didn't get as much childcare as the other big cities because we had a mayor and council who were fighting with each other instead of bringing services into Surrey. They care about the fact that we didn't get our share of the provincial money for housing so that we could grow more affordable housing and more rentals. We need a city that has an economic engine. That economic engine is our people, but we need somebody in the mayor's office and a team that will build forward. I have the youngest Brenda, and the most dynamic team. They are diverse, they are motivated, and they want to make this city, their city, the very best it can be, because they tell me this is where they plan to live, this is where they plan to raise their children, and they love
Thank you
Surrey.
very much. John.
In 2014, we talked about having Ferris wheels. In 2018, maybe a canal and a big-ass sports stadium in 2022. In 2014, Brenda thought she'd be queen. In 2018, Bruce thought he'd be king. And now Brenda is the latest to find religion. The theme song for Surrey politics should be The Backstabbers by the OJs. Smile in your face indeed. I'm old school. I figure you go home with the one who brought you to the dance. When we hear all these fantastic promises made by politicians this election, we're like the dog going for a car ride. Get in the car, all happy and wagging his tail. Little does he know he's going to the vet to get neutered. Ignorance is bliss. So you got to realize, how am I going to pay for this? All these promises. All this election is about, it's your nickel. Fiscally responsible. That's what you have to have. You only have so much money. The average person has only $200 to get by after they pay their bills. We cannot force people to have more debt load on their backs.
Thank you very much, everyone. Your mayoral candidates for 2022. Our our best wishes to you from the Surrey Board of Trade and the South Asian Business Association. Thank you so much to IOM Property Group, the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, Cargill, Surrey Hearings Care for your support. And everyone, remember to vote on October 15th. Surrey matters in this election. Make it a great business week. Thank you.
Mr. Hogg, big day today will be debate among mayor's candidates. So you're Surrey first candidate as a mayor for the city of Surrey. How your campaign going so far?
Well, it's so dramatically different than any other campaign I've been in. When I was a member of parliament, there were 5 MPs in all of Surrey. When I was an MLA, I think there were 7. So now we've got 600,000 people, or 600,000 people basically dealing with. So it's a whole different thing. But the nice part of it is you get to meet a lot more people. And secondly, you get to control your platform and your values and your principles. Whereas if you're running with a party, federally or provincially, you inherit a platform that they give you. So it's nice to have that flexibility and to be able to decide the people you're running with.
So out of 600,000 people, how many you think will be voting citizens?
Well, not all of them will be Canadian citizens and will have the right to vote, but of the people that have a right to vote, about 32% turned out at the last election. So that's a very low voter turnout, and hopefully there's going to be a greater voter turnout. It's ironic that at the local level you have closer to the impact that in terms of the people you can contact that are your elected representatives, but yet at a provincial level it's closer to 60% turnout and sometimes 70% for an MP or for the national. So, but local community people are the ones closest to you, the ones you can contact, the one that have an impact in terms of the development you're having, in terms of your water and your garbage and your parks. So it's a little bit ironic that it doesn't have a better turnout.
So as a politician, you have a lot of experience on all level of government. Having said that, I saw your press release about the 50 applications pushed through recently. What do you think about that?
Well, I understand that in some cases they get an agenda sent to them, email every council member on the Thursday night, and in some cases it's over 4,000 pages. And that's just overwhelming in terms of that. So I think that's a problem. And then to hold a public hearing and then have a meeting that has, well, depending on how many, if it looks like 45 or 50 that were being dealt with just before an election, that just seems so inappropriate and wrong that should happen. I've never seen that happen before. I know when I was a mayor, anytime you got into the writ period for an election, you didn't deal with issues like that. In fact, we didn't have meetings.
So what could be the reason to pushing these applications through?
Well, there's all kinds of assumptions that people are making with respect to that. One of the things that we would do if we're successful in being elected is we would have a public inquiry into the whole processes that are taking place and look at that. We would do that transparently. We think it should be wide open. People should be able to speak to it. And I've talked to lots of people who have concerns about the way things are happening at City Hall in Surrey. And for whatever reason, the mayor has decided to close down virtually all of the advisory committees, so there's not the connection. He's banned some people from council. So one of the things we would do is certainly open that up. We want to have advisory committees. We want to have people talking to us and telling us what they see. Politicians have to remember that they report to the community, not the other way around. And so we've got to make that dialogue and that interaction much bigger than it is now, and to do it the way they did it without having anybody else at the meeting at 4:30 in the afternoon was I just think wrong.
Yeah. So far, did you or your campaign did any polls? Do you know where you stack up among all the 6 main candidates?
I'm not sure where we stack up. I think it's going to be, I think that the vote, those people that are successful in getting their supporters out to vote, I think will be the ones that will be most successful. So that's the big issue. And certainly some of the polling that I've heard about is not terribly helpful, because people who respond to polls don't necessarily get out and vote. So there's some inconsistency there. So there are some challenges with that. So no, I don't know where we sit, but I'm getting lots of phone calls. I've been out to lots of meetings, and I've been grateful for that interaction, and I get to learn a lot from the people of our community.
Any final comments, Mr.
Well, only that I hope people will get out and vote. hope that they understand that we're fortunate to live in a democracy and that it's important to vote, no matter who they choose to vote for, that they do get out and vote. That's the crucial part.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Nice to
Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Brenda, let's start with the sitting mayor. Doug McCallum is not here. How you feel about that?
Well, I think it's appalling. He owed it to the residents of this city to be at a debate, and he has been a no-show. This isn't the first time, though. He's been ignoring the citizens of Surrey for a long time now, so I guess this is kind of par for the course.
So what stands out for you for this whole debate today?
Well, I think what stood out for me the most was that, you know, the fact that he isn't here is a glaring example of who he is and what he means to to the residents. You also heard from just about every single person here that they're ashamed of this city and ashamed of the work that he has done over the last 4 years. It has been a challenge. There's no question about that.
So going to election, how optimistic you are?
My team is very optimistic, and we know and feel very good about what's happening coming. We've certainly know where our polling is, and so we're pretty happy moving forward. We're going into the last week, so.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Ginny, the sitting mayor is not here today. How you feel about that?
That's his choice. It's a democracy. You participate or you do not. And obviously, he's not interested.
ਸੋ ਆਪਣੇ ਅੱਜ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਡਿਬੇਟ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਬਾਕੀ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਸੋਚਦੇ?
ਦੇਖੋ, ਮੈਂ ਰਿਸਪੈਕਟ ਕਰਦੀ ਹਾਂ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਹੋਵੇ, ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਉਹਦੀ ਕਾਬਲੀਅਤ ਹੋਵੇ, ਉਹ ਖੜੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ। ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਖਰਜ ਮਿਲਣੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ ਖੜੇ ਹੋਣ ਨੂੰ। ਡੈਮੋਕ੍ਰੇਸੀ ਤਦ ਕਾਇਮ ਰਹਿੰਦੀ ਆ ਜੇ ਲੋਕ ਮੋਹਰੇ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਖੜੇ ਹੋਣ। ਸੋ ਕੰਗ੍ਰੈਚੁਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਟੂ ਐਵਰੀ ਵਨ ਆਫ them।
ਸੋ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੁਣ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਥੋੜੇ ਜਿਹੇ ਦਿਨ ਰਹਿ ਗਏ, ਹਾਊ ਯੂ ਆਰ ਫੀਲਿੰਗ ਅਬਾਊਟ ਯੂਰ ਕੈਂਪੇਨ?
I'm feeling excellent about my campaign. It's very exciting. I get to meet really neat people who are telling me that we're on the right track. We're the only campaign that's focused on what families really care about. They care about housing. They care about public transit. They care about so many different things. They're worried about their roti kapda makan, right? ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਤਿੰਨ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਦਾ ਫਿਕਰ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਣੀ ਸੇਫਟੀ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਦਾ ਫਿਕਰ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ। ਉਹ ਸਾਡੀ ਟੀਮ ਪੂਰੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਤਿਆਰ ਆ। ਆਈ ਹੈਵ ਅ ਯੰਗ ਡਾਈਵਰਸ ਟੀਮ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤਿਆਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਸਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਸਹੀ ਦਿਸ਼ਾ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਣ ਨੂੰ। ਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਗੱਲ ਮੈਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕਹਿ ਦਊਂਗੀ, ਜੇ ਅੱਜ ਮੈਂ ਖੜੀ ਆ ਐਮਆਰ ਲਈ, ਮੈਂ ਖੜੀ ਆ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਪੀੜ੍ਹੀ ਲਈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮੇਰੇ ਲਈ ਇੱਕ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਇੱਕ ਮੇਅਰ ਦੀ ਕੁਰਸੀ ਲਈ ਨਹੀਂ, ਇਹ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਸਰੀ ਲਈ। ਇਹ ਇਮਤਿਹਾਨ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਸਾਡੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਰੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ ਜਾਣੀ ਆ। ਇਹ ਹੈਗਾ ਆ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਫॉर द सोल ऑफ Surrey। ਐਂਡ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਖੜੇ, ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੱਚੇ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲ ਫੈਮਲੀਜ਼ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੇ, ਪਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਲਈ ਤਾਂ ਬੱਚੇ ਹੀ ਆ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਕਮਿਟਮੈਂਟ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਰੀ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਰਹਿਣਾ ਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਮੁਲਕ ਨੂੰ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਾਣਾ। ਸੋ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਿਹਾ, ਜਿਨੀ ਤੂੰ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਖੜੀ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਰਸਤਾ ਦਿਖਾ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਸਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਧਾਰੀਏ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸਿਖਾ ਲੈਣਾ, ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਸਿੱਖਣਾ।
ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ ਵੈਰੀ ਮਚ, ਐਪਰੀਸ਼ੀਏਟ ਦੈਟ ਐਂਡ ਗੁੱਡ ਲੱਕ।
ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ।
ਮਿਸਟਰ ਧਾਲੀਵਾਲ, ਆਪਣੇ ਅੱਜ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਿਟਿੰਗ ਮੇਅਰ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਡਿਬੇਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਨਹੀਂ, ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੀ ਖਿਆਲ?
ਦੇਖੋ, ਇੱਕ ਵੱਡੀ ਇਨਸਲਟ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਸਰੀ ਆਫ ਬੋਰਡ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬੋਰਡ ਆਫ ਟ੍ਰੇਡ ਹੈਗਾ। ਦੇਖੋ, ਇੱਕ ਉਹ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇੱਕ ਵਧੀਆ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੀ ਹੈ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਮਾਲ ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਔਰ ਅਪਰਚੂਨਿਟੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕਰਦੀ। ਸਾਨੂੰ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਕਿ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਡਿਬੇਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਾਂ ਲਾਜ਼ਮੀ ਪਹੁੰਚਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਔਰ ਇੰਨੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਲੋਕ, ਪਰ ਦੇਖੋ ਇਹ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਪ ਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ। ਪਰ ਮੈਂ ਦੱਸ ਸਕਦਾ ਕਿ ਐਵਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿੰਨੀ ਦੇਰ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਆ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਲਾਈਫ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਸਰੀ ਬੋਰਡ ਆਫ ਟ੍ਰੇਡ ਚਾਹੇ ਕੋਈ ਫੰਕਸ਼ਨ ਪੁੱਟ ਟੂਗੈਦਰ ਕਰਦਾ, ਚਾਹੇ ਡਿਬੇਟ ਪੁੱਟ ਟੂਗੈਦਰ ਕਰਦਾ, ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰੀਦੀ ਆ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਉੱਥੇ ਪਹੁੰਚੀਏ। ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਇਨਕਰੇਜ ਕਰਨਾ ਪੈਣਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਹ ਜੇ ਹੈ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਕਨੋਮਿਕ ਇੰਜਨ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਹਾਂ, ਠੀਕ ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਰੀ ਬੋਰਡ ਆਫ ਟ੍ਰੇਡ ਇੱਕ ਬੜਾ ਮਹੱਤਵਪੂਰਨ ਰੋਲ ਅਦਾ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ।
ਸੋ ਅੱਜ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਡਿਬੇਟ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਫੀਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਕੈਂਪੇਨ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ?
ਦੇਖੋ, ਆਲਵੇਜ਼ ਗੁੱਡ। ਆ ਕੈਂਪੇਨ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸੀ ਮੋਸਟਲੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਪੋਜ਼ੀਟਿਵ ਗਈ ਹੈਗੀ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਹੀ ਆ, ਔਰ ਬੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਆਏ, ਵੈਲ ਬਿਹੇਵਡ ਸੀਗੇ। ਔਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੈਂਪੇਨ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਬਈ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਆਈ ਲਵ, ਇਹਦਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਪੈਸ਼ਨ ਆ ਕੈਂਪੇਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ। ਔਰ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੈਂ ਐਡੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਗਿਣਤੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਵੀਕ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੇਖਿਆ, ਚਾਹੇ ਉਹ ਫਾਈਨੈਂਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਆ, ਚਾਹੇ ਉਹ ਵਲੰਟੀਅਰਸ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਲਓ, ਚਾਹੇ ਉਹ ਵੋਟ ਪਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਸੁਨੇਹਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਬਹੁਤ ਪਰਮਾ ਹੰਗਾਰਾ ਹੈਗਾ। ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਅੱਗੇ ਮੈਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਕਦੇ ਵੀ ਇੰਨੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਗਿਣਤੀ 'ਚ ਲੋਕ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਚੇਂਜ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, ਲੋਕੀ ਦੁਖੀ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਆ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਆਮ ਸਧਾਰਨ ਬੰਦੇ ਦਾ ਐਕਸੈਸ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਿਟੀ ਹਾਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਖਤਮ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕਾ। ਔਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਪਲਾਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਂਦੀ, ਚਾਹੇ ਉਹ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਸੇਫਟੀ ਦੀ ਪਲਾਨ ਕਰ ਲਓ, ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਛੇਤੀ ਤੋਂ ਛੇਤੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਟ੍ਰਾਂਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਇਹ ਮੇਅਰ ਅਤੇ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਕੰਪਲੀਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕੇ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਛੇਤੀ ਤੋਂ ਛੇਤੀ, ਔਰ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਓਪਨ ਟਰਾਂਸਪੇਰੈਂਟ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਹੋਏਗੀ। ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਪਰਮਿਟਸ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ, ਜਦੋਂ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਕਿ 2005 ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਬਿਲਡਿੰਗ ਪਰਮਿਟ 3-4 ਹਫ਼ਤੇ 'ਚ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਸੀ, ਹੁਣ ਇੰਨੀ ਵਧੀਆ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਇੰਨੀ ਸਟਰੋਂਗ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਟੈਕਨੋਲੋਜੀ ਆ ਗਈਆਂ, ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਕਿਉਂ ਟਾਈਮ ਲੱਗਦਾ? ਉਹਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਅਸੀਂ 3-3-3 ਪਲਾਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਂਦੀ ਵੀ 3 ਦਿਨਾਂ 'ਚ ਰੈਨੋਵੇਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ ਪਰਮਿਟ, ਸਮਾਲ ਸਿੰਪਲ ਰੈਨੋਵੇਸ਼ਨ, 3 ਹਫ਼ਤੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਿੰਗਲ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ, ਔਰ 3 ਮਹੀਨੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਲਟੀ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਆ। ਉਹ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਉਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤਰਜੀਹ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਆ। ਔਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਪਾਰਟੀਕੂਲਰਲੀ ਮੇਅਰ ਮੈਕਲਮ ਨੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਇੰਡੋਰਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਵੀ ਹਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹਨੂੰ 2 ਹਫ਼ਤੇ 'ਚ ਹੁਣ ਕਰ ਦਿਆਂਗੇ, ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤੋਂ 4 ਸਾਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰ ਸਕੇ, ਪਰ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਫਿਰ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਇਕੱਲਾ ਇਹ ਨਹੀਂ, ਇਨਫੈਕਟ ਇੱਕ ਮੇਜਰ ਮੇਅਰਲ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਵੈਨਕੂਵਰ ਦੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਵੀ ਉਹੀ ਪਲਾਨ ਲਿਆਂਦੀ ਆ 3-3-3, ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਐਡ ਕੀਤਾ 1, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਮਲਟੀਪਲ ਸਟੋਰੀਜ਼ ਲਈ ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ 1 ਸਾਲ ਲਾਇਆ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਸੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵੀ ਪਲਾਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆ ਰਹੇ, ਜਦੋਂ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਸੇਫਟੀ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ, 15 ਫਾਇਰ ਫਾਈਟਰਸ ਨਵੇਂ ਹਾਇਰ ਕਰਨੇ, ਯੂਥ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਯੰਗ ਪੀਪਲ ਦੇ ਲਈ ਯੂਥ ਹੱਬ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਕਰਨੀ, ਟ੍ਰਿਆਜ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਾਇਲਾ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਬਾਇਲਾ ਰਿਲੇਟਡ ਇਸ਼ੂ ਨਾਲ ਡੀਲ ਕਰੇ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਟ੍ਰੈਫਿਕ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਆ ਉਹ ਟ੍ਰੈਫਿਕ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਹੈਲਥ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਉਹ ਮੈਂਟਲ ਹੈਲਥ ਇਸ਼ੂਜ਼ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਰਿਲੇਟਡ ਐਕਟੀਵਿਟੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕੰਮ ਕਰੇ। ਔਰ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 15 ਫਾਇਰ ਫਾਈਟਰ ਨਵੇਂ ਐਵਰੀ ਸਾਲ 5 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਲਈ ਹਾਇਰ ਕਰਨੇ, ਨਵਾਂ ਫਾਇਰ ਹਾਲ ਬਣਾਉਣਾ। ਸੋ ਜਦੋਂ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀਆਂ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਸੇਫਟੀ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ, ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਜੱਚਦੀ ਹੈਗੀ। ਇਨਫੈਕਟ ਫਾਇਰ ਫਾਈਟਰਸ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਆਈ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਲਿੰਡਾ ਐਨਸ ਨੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਇੰਡੋਰਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਵੀ ਯੈਸ ਵੀ ਵਿਲ ਹਾਇਰ ਨਿਊ ਫਾਇਰ ਫਾਈਟਰਸ। ਉਦੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਕੀਤਾ ਸੀਗਾ ਤਾਂ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੇਖੋਗੇ ਟੈਕਸ ਫਰੀਜ਼ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਸੀ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਪਰਟੀ ਟੈਕਸ 1 ਸਾਲ ਲਈ ਫਰੀਜ਼ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਹਿਡਨ ਟੈਕਸ ਜਿਹੜਾ $100 ਤੋਂ ਵਧਾ ਕੇ 200% ਵਧਾਇਆ, 300 ਥਾਈਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ, ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਰੋਲ ਬੈਕ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਉਹੀ ਮੇਅਰ ਮੈਕਲਮ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਹੁਣ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਟੈਕਸ ਫਰੀਜ਼ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਸੋ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਡਾ ਪਲੇਟਫਾਰਮ ਆ ਨਾ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕਾਪੀ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ। ਸੋ ਇਹ ਦੱਸਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਪਲੇਟਫਾਰਮ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਏ ਸੀ ਇਹ ਵੈਲ ਥਾਟ ਪਲੇਟਫਾਰਮ ਹੈਗਾ, ਔਰ ਐਕਸਪਰਟਸ ਨੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਬੈਠ ਕੇ ਬਣਾਇਆ ਹੈਗਾ। ਔਰ ਪਾਕਿਸਤਾਨ ਰੈਕ੍ਰੀਏਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਲਈਏ, ਅੱਜ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖੋ ਸਰੀ ਫਸਟ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਕਹਿ ਰਿਹਾ ਜੀ ਵੀ ਮੋਰ ਸਵਿਮਿੰਗ ਪੂਲ ਬਣਨੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ ਆ, ਮੋਰ ਗਰਾਊਂਡਸ ਬਣਨੇ ਚਾਹੀਦੇ। ਅਸੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਹੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ 4 ਨਿਕਾਤੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਲਿਆਂਦਾ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਲਿਆਂਦਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਹਿਸਟੋਰਿਕ ਇਨਵੈਸਟਮੈਂਟ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਮੇਕ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ, ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਪਾਰਕਸ ਐਂਡ ਰੈਕ੍ਰੀਏਸ਼ਨ, ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਲਈ ਔਰ ਉਹ ਫੈਸਿਲਿਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਚਾਹੀਦੀਆਂ ਉਹ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕਰ ਸਕੀਏ। ਬਜ਼ੁਰਗ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਆ ਕੇ ਪਾਰਕਸ ਦਾ ਆਨੰਦ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਹ ਮਾਣ ਸਕਣ। ਸੋ ਚਾਹੇ ਉਹ ਪਾਲਿਸੀ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਲਈਏ, ਚਾਹੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਦੀ, ਬੀਇੰਗ ਏ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਇੰਜੀਨੀਅਰ, ਲੈਂਡ ਸਰਵੇਅਰ, ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸਮੈਨ, ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਤੇ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰੇ, ਚਾਹੇ ਯੂਨਾਈਟਿਡ ਸਰੀ ਦੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਟੀਮ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਇੱਕ ਬੜੀ ਡਾਈਵਰਸ ਟੀਮ ਆ ਫਰੋਮ ਕਲਚਰਲ ਪਰਸਪੈਕਟਿਵ, ਕਿੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ, ਦਾ ਟੈਲੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਬ੍ਰਿੰਗ ਇਨ, ਉਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੱਦੇਨਜ਼ਰ ਰੱਖ ਕੇ ਅੱਜ ਚੇਂਜ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਆ। ਔਰ ਉਹ ਚੇਂਜ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ, ਜੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਸਿਟੀ ਹਾਲ ਆਮ ਸਧਾਰਨ ਬੰਦੇ ਲਈ ਖੋਲ੍ਹਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ, ਅਫੋਰਡੇਬਿਲਟੀ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਆ, ਉੱਥੇ ਹੈਲਪ ਪਬਲਿਕ ਸੇਫਟੀ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਆ, ਉਹ ਅਸੀਂ ਬੈਟਰ ਕਰ ਸਕੀਏ। ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਡੀ ਪਾਰਕਸ ਐਂਡ ਰੈਕ੍ਰੀਏਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਉਹ ਬੈਟਰ ਕਰ, ਤਾਂ ਸਰੀ ਯੂਨਾਈਟਿਡ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਟੀਮ ਹੈਗੀ ਆ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ 15 ਅਕਤੂਬਰ ਨੂੰ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਕਰੀਏ। ਵੋਟ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਪਾਉਣੀ ਹੈਗੀ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਕਰਦਾ ਵੀ 15 ਅਕਤੂਬਰ ਨੂੰ ਵੋਟ ਪਾਉਣੀ ਆ, ਪਰ ਹੁਣ 8, 9 ਤੇ 12 ਤਰੀਕ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਵੋਟਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਐਡਵਾਂਸ ਪੋਲਿੰਗ ਪੈਣੀ ਆ। ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਸਟੇਸ਼ਨ 'ਤੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਪਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ। ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਵੋਟ ਪਾਓ। ਇਹ ਅਧਿਕਾਰ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਬੜਾ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਿਲ ਨਾਲ ਮਿਲਿਆ। ਇਹਦਾ ਹੱਕ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਵੋਟ ਦਾ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵਰਤੋਂ ਕਰਨੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਆ। ਫਿਰ ਇੱਕ ਮੇਰੇ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਸਾਹਿਬ, ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਾਂਝਾ TV ਦਾ ਸਮੂਹ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਕ ਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਤਹਿ ਦਿਲੋਂ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ। ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਲਈ ਸਾਡੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਸ਼ੁਭ ਕਾਮਨਾ।
Thank you, Mr. Talio, and best wishes.
Best wishes.
Okay, Mr. Godi Hope, Surrey first team, what do you think of the debate and Mayor being not here?
Well, I tried to fill in for him as best I could, despite he didn't show up. And I think that part of a democracy is you should be there. If you want to be representing these people, you should be listening to them. We've got to learn from the positives and the negatives. And I think that certainly all the Surrey First members were here, all of the run for the slate. They were all listening, paying attention, and learning from the questions and from the comments and the people they're talking to. That's an important part of democratic engagement with people. So I was disappointed that he wasn't here.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Anita, so today was a debate. Surrey Board of Trade organized it for mayoral candidate for Surrey. What do you think about the debate?
Well, both the Surrey Board of Trade and the South Asian Business Association, we were disappointed that Doug McCallum didn't show up at our debate tonight, but we were certainly pleased that everyone else participated. This is the most important election for Surrey's economy. We're going to be the largest city in BC very soon, and it was important for those that were here in person and also seeing it from their living room or from their workplace digitally to be able to be educated on what their economic priorities were. So we were pleased that we were able to host a mayoral candidates debate tonight.
Thank you very much for doing a good job. Thank you. ਅੱਜ ਸਰੀ ਮੇਰਲ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਦੀ ਡਿਬੇਟ ਹੋਈ ਜਿਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ 8 ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਸਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਸਰੀ ਦੇ ਮੇਅਰ ਡੱਗ ਮਕਲਮ ਆਪ ਉੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਸੀ ਡਿਬੇਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਬਾਕੀ 7 ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਸੀਗੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਦੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਰੱਖੇ ਕਾਫੀ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਵਟਾਂਦਰਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਦੇ ਥੋੜ੍ਹੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਅਟੈਕ ਵੀ ਹੋਏ ਸੋ ਇਹ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਆਪਦੇ ਵਿਚਾਰ ਬਣਾਓਗੀ ਕਿਹੜਾ ਬੈਸਟ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਿ ਸਰੀ ਦੇ ਮੇਅਰ ਦੇ ਕਾਬਲ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਸਰਵ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ ਰਿਪੋਰਟਿੰਗ ਫਰਮ ਸਰੀ ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ CJ ਸਿੱਧੂ ਥੈਂਕ ਯੂ